Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 3 of the 4-part training series on supporting ethnocultural and multilingual families. This training is designed by the Multicultural Health Brokers Edmonton and the University of Alberta's Multilingual Families Lab, and this has been done in partnership with PolicyWise. Our names are Nahid Mooki, and I'm Dr. Andrea McLeod. And we'll be your facilitators for the series, and we'll share some of our lived experiences, our knowledge and experience with promising strategies, all linked to promoting multilingualism and intercultural practices in early learning and childcare environments. And this has been based on our own research and our community work. We're also sharing knowledge we've learned and gained from our community partners that serve ethnocultural and multilingual families. As we've mentioned in Module 1 and 2, the first 3 modules of this series are self-directed and only about 30 minutes long. They're aimed at educators and program leaders that are eager to enhance their understanding of intercultural practices and to better support ethnocultural children and their families in care. Our 4th module is a synchronous session, and it will take place in February and March of 2025. For those that have taken the first 3 modules prior to that time, they'll be welcome to come and join us, and we're really excited to collaborate with fellow educators and think about how to bring this learning into your programs. In this 3rd module, which is titled Building Family Capacity, educators and program leaders will build on what they learned in the first 2 modules. You'll focus on how to support children and families by connecting them with community skills and resources. This approach includes families as essential partners in their child's holistic development. In this module, you'll understand your role in supporting and empowering ethnocultural and multilingual families to identify and enhance their strengths. We will also explore how culturally responsive childcare can positively shape communities and society, and learn the importance of recognizing and validating families' insights as vital strengths for their children. We'll be using practical examples to share some ways to leverage cultural wealth for child development, and lastly use the concepts of cultural brokering to see yourself as a connector who can help advocate for families and support them to access valuable community resources and help create meaningful partnerships between the child's home and the early learning and childcare setting. We hope that this module will have a meaningful impact on your practice and the lives of the families you care for. So in the last module, we talked about the importance of considering the child and their family. Using the idea of nested systems, we learned that it is essential to understand how the child and their family are nested within the broader context. So if we remember, we have the child at the center, surrounded by their family, surrounded by their neighborhood, community, and early learning and childcare settings, which is surrounded by the broader society. As educators and leaders, our early development training reminds us that the families are experts on their children. In many cases, this is the first time that the child will leave the safety of their home and have exposure to any kind of public system. So it's important to not only involve the child in the family in the child's learning and their development, but also create an environment within our program where the child's home culture and ways are celebrated and honored, so that the child doesn't feel any discrepancy between the home and their school. One way to do this is by bringing the parents' strengths and knowledge into the classroom settings. We know that families, which include parents, grandparents, and other family members, have a lot of strengths. They can positively contribute to their child's development. Hence, building these relationships and creating conducive ways of bringing in these strengths should be our aim. FLIGHT, which is Alberta's early learning and care framework, calls this the practice of relationships with the family, social, and cultural practices that the child is embedded within and connected through these multiple relations. All of these influence the child in many ways. As we invest time and effort to know the child in our classroom, their strengths and areas where they may struggle, we also need to invest time and effort in fostering a positive and supportive partnership with all those that are involved in the child's life outside of the classroom. Research has demonstrated that when families are involved in their child's learning and development, the learning experience is enriched for all children. For many ethnocultural children, the early learning and child care mainstream environment may be very different from their home environment. This may lead to what we call children living double lives. For example, a newcomer child may be acting as an adult and leading conversations at a doctor's clinic or translating for their parents, but at school they're seen as a child with very few responsibilities and is unlikely to be engaging with other adults in that way. So by engaging children and their families, and the community, we as educators and program leaders can learn about our children's lives outside of school. With this knowledge, we can better interact with them, make learning more responsive, and help them integrate into the early learning and childcare environment. Culturally responsive education does not view the school, the home, and the community of the child as separate entities, but rather they attempt to minimize the boundaries and work with the community. When families from diverse backgrounds share their knowledge and experiences and their unique global perspectives with the educators, the educators can help them embed these within their classroom and curriculum. And this leads to learning experiences for all children in the classroom to be enhanced as a result. You'll recall in Module 1, we looked at some of the hopes of families from the Journeys Project. One learning from this project with ethnocultural parents of young children was that all families wanted their child to succeed and wanted the best for them. Another learning from this project was that parents expressed the desire to be included in their child's education process, and they wanted to contribute their talents and cultural wealth. They wanted to share their stories, their knowledge, their skills, and their languages towards the betterment of the early learning and childcare system. With that in mind, here are some concrete ways that over the years have worked well to engage families. These include getting to know the families by asking curious questions about them and their children. It also includes learning about them, bringing in the family's values and cultural practices into the classrooms. Concrete ways of empowering the families by letting them contribute to the learning journey of their child. For this will share different approaches, one of which can be a co-designed community tool called the Parent Manifesto. So we know that engaging parents and the child's family is really important for enhancing their experiences. We'll encourage you to think about in building in time, not just at the initial intake meeting, but at various points in the year to reach out to families, learn about them, and ask questions in a curious and empowering way. Here are a few that we've used in different ethnocultural communities, and particularly asking parents where we want to learn more about them. We've asked questions such as, what are your hopes and aspirations for your child? This helps us really find those common points that we all share. If it's not the child's or the family's first early learning and childcare experience, we can ask about their previous experiences, such as how has early learning and childcare experiences, how have they been? What are the highlights? What have been some of the challenges? This can help us anticipate some bumps along the road or moments where families are a little bit more stressed because they're not sure if it's going to play out the way it played out in the past. We may also ask about what are some activities related to your child's culture that you engage in with your child. We may also want to ask, what language do you speak at home? Does your child have any favorite foods that you cook at home? Any cultural festivities and celebrations that you celebrate as a family? We may also ask, what is your vision for quality early learning and childcare? How would you like to be involved in shaping that vision? And this opens the door and creates opportunities to bring in the parents and highlight ways that they can take part in ensuring that it's possible for them. Another way to engage with families to focus on their hopes and aspirations was using that as a connection to having difficult conversations, to build partnership and communicate with them. In Module 1, we shared some hopes and aspirations of the family and saw how many of these hopes align with the hopes and vision you have for the child in your care. Here is a hope expressed by one of the families in our project. If you ask me, my deepest hope is that my children are allowed to be who they are, that they are confident to speak their language and are confident citizens. I want them to be confident about themselves and their family and their identity. I also want them to be kind-hearted and loving. I want my sons not to always be stressed and reactive. I want them to be kind and caring towards themselves, towards others, and especially towards their partners. I want my daughters to be happy, emotionally and mentally, happy to be who they are and who they are with. Let's pause and reflect on some of the hopes that you've heard families express. Let's pause and reflect on the hopes that this family has expressed. How would you follow up? What might be some steps that you take to build that partnership with them?
Thank you, Andrea. In Module 2, we spoke about valuing families' knowledges and bringing in the family's cultural practices and home languages into the classroom, and thereby promoting intercultural and multilingual practices. These include bringing in the food, crafts, stories, and songs from the family's home culture and home languages. It also involves more long-term and meaningful opportunities to connect and collaborate with the families. For example, inviting the families to co-design the snack and the lunch menu with you. Asking them to share an inexpensive yet safe and age-appropriate object that you can place in your play areas for children to explore, interact, and play with. Or, if possible, inviting families to share books and read to the class. It also includes having parental evenings to check in and share meals together in the center or outside at a communal place like parks. Or perhaps asking them to share with you key celebrations and festivals in the year so you can mark them in the school calendar and have planning of curriculum based around these festivals that are important to the family. Now, we will share a tool called the Parent Manifesto that could help facilitate and partner with families and involve them and engage them in the early learning and childcare sector, but also get to know them at a better and a deeper level. The Parent Manifesto, as this tool is called, was designed in 2024 by and with ethnocultural communities and the Multicultural Health Brokers and the Multilingual Families Lab to support parents and communities to resist dominant systems in the early learning and childcare sector. It aims to be a framework to support parents and communities in feeling confident in advocating for their child, their culture, and their languages within the early learning and childcare context. This is a 3-part document that invites the parents to communicate in an audio-visual or written format to educators and early childcare programs about who the child is, about their family, what their strengths and experiences are, and some concrete ways of bringing in the intercultural practices from the family's home culture and home languages into the early learning and childcare classroom and learnings. The first page of this document is an introduction and an opening letter from the families to the educator, where they communicate in very simple terms while referring to evidence-based research. Why is it important to celebrate the child's home culture and home languages in the early learning and childcare setting? And sharing the hopes of the families and the educator to ensure that the child reaches their highest potential. The second page is some details about the families, who they are, and if applicable, what their pre-migration history is. There is also opportunity for the families on what they think to share with the educator what their child's qualities are, as well as their hopes and strengths with the educators and program leaders. Many times, because of multiple barriers or lack of time, families or the early learning and childcare staff or leadership do not have the capacity to learn about the family's hopes, experiences, and their past challenges. And this information is significant and provides a great insight into the child's home life. Therefore, this document provides an opportunity to either record in an audiovisual way or write about and explain to the educators about who the family is, what is their insights about their child, and also able to portray and communicate their challenges and fears with the past experiences of childcare and daycare, but also generally about their fears and challenges with the system. The third page of the Parent Manifesto provides opportunities for parents and families to be the experts and suggest concrete ways by way of suggestion and by bringing in linguistically and culturally enriching activities that can be implemented in the classroom and brought in the curriculum to center the family's home culture and home languages. It starts by penning down what are the languages that the family speaks at home. It also gives some options of sharing the home languages with the class, perhaps by sharing the common and favorite words and expressions that the family uses in their home language. For example, the word for water, the word for washroom. It also has options of sharing books and stories in the home language of the family, or sharing the music in the home language of the family. And there is also space for families to put in additional ways of sharing their home culture. In addition, it also provides the opportunity for the family to share their home cultures with the educator by suggesting ways like bringing in the cultural item from the home culture of the family that could be housed in the classroom, a food or a recipe that could be shared from the home culture with the educator, perhaps a moment to share about an important celebration in the home culture, or some suggestions of music and dance that could be brought into the classroom. The Parent Manifesto suggests an approach in asking empowering questions to the families and having a safe and open space and dialogue for them to provide insights on who they are and what are their hopes and aspirations, and what are the child's qualities and their previous experiences with the early learning and childcare sector. It also provides a way for families to share their knowledges and strengths. As a team of educator and program leaders, you can think about what aspects of the Parent Manifesto you can bring into your practice and center. Some of our community partners have included questions from the Parent Manifesto in their intake forms. Some of them have been inspired to use them in surveys or intake interviews with the family. Some of them have used strategies from the culture and language section of the Parent Manifesto, which was the third page, on events like parent meet and greet evenings. For example, you can ask families to donate one item from their household that represents the child home culture. Or parents can be asked to paint or draw or write hello in their home languages or the child's name when they come to meet the teacher. And that poster then can be displayed in the classroom. Alternatively, you can also share the Parent Manifesto tool with the families and ask them to either fill the tool or create an audio-visual recording using the questions as a guide. So far, we've learned that fostering positive relationship with the families involve engaging with them, getting to know them through empowering questions, learning about their hopes and aspirations, and bringing their knowledge and strengths to the classroom through culturally responsive practices. This work is referred to as cultural brokering. where you as educators and program leaders are working as the broker between the families and the early childhood and education system. The early childhood education is the first time that the child steps out from the comfort of their homes and interacts with adults and peers outside their home and community. This can be daunting not only for the child, but also for the families who leave their young one with someone they can trust for their child's well-being. We as educators then can act as cultural brokers. The concept of cultural brokers is a major part of the ethos and the work of multicultural health brokers in supporting the well-being of the family. Cultural brokering is the act of bridging, linking, and mediating between groups of people of different cultural backgrounds for the purpose of reducing conflict and producing change. At Multicultural Health Brokers, cultural brokers are those who themselves have lived through the immigrant or refugee experience and understand the strength and the needs of the communities they serve. As a result of this first-hand experience, our brokers have trust and respect of community members. They are aware and cognizant of the structures and processes of the systems that the community must navigate on a daily basis. All of you as cultural brokers can serve as the bridge between the families and the early learning and childcare system. As a cultural broker, you can serve four primary purposes: as a cultural guide, as a liaison, as a mediator, and a catalyst for change. As cultural guides, cultural brokers help both the families they work with and the education system understand each other's values, beliefs, and practices to increase cultural understanding. As liaisons, the brokers serve as communicators between communities and the systems they need to access. As cultural guides, cultural brokers help both the families they work with and the education system understand each other's values, beliefs, and practices to increase cultural understanding. As liaisons, the brokers serve as communicators between communities and the systems they need to serve. As mediators, brokers help increase trust for social systems and thereby increasing access to those systems. And finally, as catalysts for change, brokers advocate for the change they hope to see in informal societal systems to creating inclusive and collaborative environments and working together in interpersonal relationship and adapting to the changing needs of the communities they serve. We really hope that you act as cultural brokers between the families you serve and the systems you are part of by using the strengths and the knowledges of the family and bringing it into the early learning and childcare system through early years curriculum and practices. We also hope that you take the time to understand what the system offers and the community resources you know of and sharing it with the families. As part of the sharing and learning from each other, please upload some details and even pictures of some of the intercultural and culturally responsive practices. Also, feel free to share some initiatives of parental collaborations and partnership that you are engaged in and promoting in your own work and in your own practices. Please use the following survey link. The results will be shared in our live Module 4 taking place in February and March of 2025. This concludes our third module. In today's module, we explored our role in empowering ethnocultural and multilingual families to identify and enhance their strengths. We reflected at the heart of culturally responsive childcare lies strong partnership with families and recognizing and validating families' insights as vital strengths for them and their families. We also looked at a tool like Parent Manifesto to learn and build a relationship with families and leverage their cultural wealth. And lastly, we introduce the concept of cultural brokering to see yourself as a connector who helps families create meaningful partnership between the child's home and the early learning and childcare sector. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll be able to attend the live sessions planned in February and March of 2025 to discuss with your colleagues what you've learned and how you can put these ideas into practice. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself, Nahid Mukhi, or Andrea at the following email addresses. Thank you for joining us.